The voluntary school desegregation program, METCO, has a new process for registration. The deadline's coming up fairly soon on January 3rd. To tell us about the program and how to apply is METCO's CEO, Arbaje-Thomas. Thank you very much for being with us, Millie.
Thank you, Chris.
I want to start with the changes in because there was this legendary notion that you'd sign up your child before he or she was born, and now it's all different. So why did you make the change?
Well, for one thing, we wanted to be efficient, and we wanted to be transparent. We wanted to be equitable, meaning giving people the opportunity to apply that may have not found out about the program from years ago when their baby was born. So historically, that has been the tradition to apply when you come out of the hospital. But what does that mean for newcomers? If you just came here the other day, you pretty much back in the days didn't have, well, back in the days, meaning last year, you didn't have much of a chance if you were pretty new. So, right now, the big change is that you can apply when your child is school aged, so you no longer have to apply when the child is a baby. We don't accept those applications anymore because we want you to be able to apply when you're ready to make a decision about your child's education.
Is there a chronological order that first come get more of an edge, or is it
not at all? So that's one of the processes that makes it even more fair. So you don't have to hurry up and be in front of the line. The one that we used to do last year, it was basically whoever was in line first got the first opportunity. So now everybody applies in this application window, which was from October up until now, January 3rd of 2020. And after they do that, we do a randomized lottery. So basically, everybody has an equal chance to be elected for the METCO program. So you could apply on the very last day and have the same opportunity as someone else who applied on day one.
Well, for people in Boston, this is a program that allows their children to go to school in some surrounding communities. But unlike other school registration programs, you don't get to pick a school or a community. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So right now we have 33 communities participating in the METCO program in the suburbs in the greater Boston area. So when you apply, you are applying to the METCO program, and when you actually if you get selected, you would be in one of those schools.
Now, what about getting a kid to these schools, not into, because if you're the parent, well, you get up early, it's going to be a long trip. I mean, this is not totally easy, is it?
It's not. I mean, I really do tell parents that you have to give it you have to think about it very hard. It is a sacrifice. You are talking about waking up when the sun is still, still down, when people in the suburbs are still sleeping. And my daughters tell me that all the time. My friends get up 10 minutes before school begins, and we have to hit the road much earlier. So it's a sacrifice because every bus route is at least an hour just to get to school, and then you're repeating that on the way back during rush hour traffic. So it's at least 2 hours a day, in some cases 2.5 to 3, to get to school back and forth every day.
Well, it might be a good thing for all students to explore other worlds, but with METCO, we're talking about going from one world where maybe most of the people on your street, let's say, look a lot like you, to another world where you're going to stick out and you're not going to look like them. So how do people handle that?
Yeah, so that's, you really need to be a resilient child as well in order to, really survive in the METCO program, for lack of a better word. I mean, but just to really make it easier for yourself. You are sometimes the only person of color in the classroom, or just one of very few. So sometimes there is the feelings of being isolated and feeling like you can't find an affinity with someone around you. But what we're hoping to do is that by putting kids together in the classroom that are diverse and different, that we may be breaking down racial barriers and creating new friendships.
Now, of course, another concern, it might be about language learners, because in Boston, let's say, we have a lot of places where they're going to focus on that. But if you're going to these other communities, will they be able to find that?
So that could be a challenge. In some communities, they actually don't have that much English language learners in some of those communities. So in that case, if that service is not available and doesn't already exist in that community, then we wouldn't be sending the child there. So they would have to be making a decision whether the school can fulfill the needs of that child. But we're not making the schools actually recreate something that doesn't already exist there. So that is a factor when someone gets referred to a town. Like, will the district have the resources that you need in order to educate your child's unique situation?
Now, we've talked a lot about challenges, but you've talked to METCO students who've been through this program over the years. Why is it worth it?
I mean, you talk to any alumni right now, and they say regardless of all of the difficult times that they may have had in terms of friendships or isolation, they had an excellent education. These are superior schools that are really high performing. Many of them are blue ribbon schools. So you're getting a really excellent education, but you're also preparing to be in the workforce and preparing for a world that looks a little different than you, especially for a person of color. So if you're talking, going to a high performance school, getting a good education, going on to college, now you have actually been prepared to enter these white spaces, and you feel comfortable and confident because your entire life you've been around that situation. So you feel like you have a competitive edge when you go out there in the workforce.
Well, if parents want to apply, what exactly do they need to have ready before they go online and start filling in those blanks?
Yes, so this year is the first year in history of METCO that we've gone to, on the internet. So we're online, accessible via computer, smartphone, and from any location where you are. And you have to prepare your birth certificate, because that document is to prove the age of the child, so we know what grade they're going into. An ID for the guardian to ensure that the guardian of the child is the one making this decision, and then proof of Boston residency, because one of the requirements for the METCO program is that you live in the city of Boston. And there's a couple of other requirements, such as turning in the most recent grades, and those are a couple of other pieces of paperwork.
We should mention, why are those grades needed?
So, the grades, that was just part of the admissions policy that we just created to go online. Historically, they have been collecting grades for all the years of the child's education. But with this change, we've actually just turned it into a 2-year academic record. Then districts can actually utilize that information during their interview process to maybe ask questions of the child and the family about any areas where they might have some difficulties, or any areas where they were doing really great. And does this mean that we put, this child in this class or that class? So it just opens up a conversation about any particular needs that the child may have.
Well, if there's anything worth repeating, it's the deadline for all this. So please, can we have that?
Yes, so the deadline is January 3rd, 2020, and applying online.
And to get online, to do that, or just to find out more about METCO, what should people be looking for?
They can visit www.metcoinc.org.
Okay. Thank you very much for being with us. Millie Arbaje-Thomas from METCO.
Thank you.
Up ahead, the report from Dorchester with Bill Forey, but first, his message.